Welcome to 720 and 720. Once again, this is John Schulman, and we're excited to really hopefully make a huge impact on some high school coaches and some college coaches, because we got one of the most unique, crazy, lunatic, insane coaches in the country. That's a good way to introduce you, isn't it, Duggar?
Yeah, that's probably pretty accurate.
Absolutely. We have Duggar Baucom. He's a head coach at the Citadel right now, and we've got Duggar. So welcome, Duggar, to 720 and 720.
Hey, thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're excited about having you because I think your story can relate to a lot of people. And let me explain Duggar's past history. Duggar was at Davidson, but we're not talking about Davidson today. He's at Mars Hill, and that's a good job. It's at Northwestern State, good job. Western Carolina, good job. Tusculum, a little tougher job. And then Duggar took two of the toughest jobs in Division I basketball. So he was the head coach at VMI, and now he's the head coach at the Citadel. First of all, Duggar, explain, and they're great jobs. Any job's a great job. But explain to our listeners why VMI and the Citadel are tough jobs.
Well, they're both military schools, and they're military schools, but they're not one of the federal academies like Air Force, Army, or the Naval Academy. So you don't quite have the national prestige that those schools have. So it's a state military college. Kids wear a uniform. Anytime they're on campus, they're in uniform. They have just very little leave when they can get off campus. Their day starts about 6:15 in the morning, and their day's regimented. They don't own any of their time until about 10 o'clock at night. So it's
well, that's perfect for today's basketball player. I mean, that fits.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly.
That is right up their alley.
Oh, everybody's dying to do that. And at VMI, it was extremely tough because our kids lived in a barracks, and we live in barracks at Citadel too. But at VMI, they had concrete floors, and there could be up to 5 guys in your room, and they slept on a cot with a 4-inch mattress that they had to roll up every day. So that was a unique challenge. Now at the Citadel, we're like the Marriott. We have bunk beds. Our kids stay in bunk beds with hardwood floors, but still a pretty small room. You have to keep your room in order, nothing on the floor. You have racks that you hang your clothes in. Your books have to be from tallest to shortest. Both schools have a demerit process, tours and cons. If you do something bad, you march with a rifle for an hour, or you sit in your room for an hour. Just a lot of rules and regulations that pretty difficult to follow this day and time. You know, most kids come from a family that's not quite as structured as the life they're going to lead for their 4 years at VMI or the Citadel.
Well, so I mean, at VMI, there's no way you can win any games at VMI with those type kids. But you happen to accidentally on a Friday night. I don't even know what year it was, Duggar. I'm getting old. But on a Friday night, you went to Rupp Arena and beat Kentucky at Kentucky while you were at VMI.
Yeah.
That was a decent night for you, wasn't
it? That was a pretty fun night. It was actually opening night in 2008, I guess. November,
yeah, because I was mad. We were going, as the head coach of Chattanooga then, we were heading to Tennessee. And, you know, what you do is after, you know, when you're in coaching after the game, you check all your buddies' scores. And they were like, right. VMI beat Kentucky tonight in Rupp. I was like, Duggar Baucom. Duggar came from nowhere to being at VMI to beating Kentucky. I mean, so what we're gonna do, because this podcast is to help young coaches or players or parents or business people, but today it's gonna be about coaches. There's a lot of coaches. I think there's more coaches in this country, Duggar, that are in jobs that are hard instead of in the premier job. Correct? Incorrect?
I would agree.
I mean, so like in college, I mean, Coach K's got a pretty good job. Calipari's got a pretty good job. Roy Williams got a pretty good job. There's 351, or now 353?
Yeah, 353 now.
353 Division I jobs. Those bottom 150 jobs are very difficult. And in high school, there's going to be a lot of situations in high school that I don't have the best talent. I've only got one gym, and I've got to go compete with the big boys. And how am I supposed to do that? The other thing I want to tell you before we get started is in high school, you got you got to share with football, and you got to share with baseball, and you have to make basketball sometimes, especially in the South. You got to make basketball fun, because why am I not just going to play football? I'll be prepared for football and play football in the fall, and we got spring football going on, or baseball. I mean, baseball in the South is huge. So
Right.
what you've done, and you're going to explain to us what you've done, is you've made basketball extremely fun, and you had to, because you were at the places you were, correct?
Correct. Yes. You did it for recruiting purposes and also to try to give your team the best advantage. I thought the best advantage they had to win in difficult leagues.
All right, first of
So
all, when did you come up with this concept? When you went to VMI, or were you still at Tusculum? Because Bob McKillop would kill you if you were thinking about explaining this and trying to do this at Davidson.
right. Yeah. So I was with Bob for a year and we played fast, at Davidson.
Yeah.
But was with him, and then I was with Dave Riggins for 2 years at Mars Hill as an assistant, and then went to Western Carolina. I actually got the Tusculum job from Western Carolina, and was my first job as a head coach. And I always knew I wanted to play fast. My high school teams, when I was a JV high school coach back in North Carolina, we played fast. And so I got to Tusculum, and they had played the Princeton style, and had been around. I think they were 14 and 16 the year before I got there, and I knew I wasn't smart enough to run the Princeton style.
Absolutely.
No way close to that.
I
And
can
they played
second. I can second that with you.
thanks. And they played pack line defense. So I'm thinking, wow, pack line really doesn't go with what I want to do. And I think my greatest mentor, somebody I really, really looked up to when I was a young coach, high school coach, was a guy named Bo Brickles. And you probably
I remember
Bo.
Concord.
Concord High School.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's since passed on, but he was the head coach at Davidson at one time. We would scrimmage them when I was at North Mecklenburg in Charlotte. We would scrimmage Concord. And the thing about his teams are, as soon as you scored, they were running the ball right back down your throat. And he was always playing against an unset defense. And I just always liked that concept. And so as soon as I got the Tusculum job, I called Bo, and I met him at a Wendy's in Concord. And he had retired from coaching, and I said, hey, I'm not going to change the defense. I'm going to lead the pack line defense, but I want to play fast offensively. And he said it won't work. And I said, why not? He said, you can't force enough turnovers. And I said, well, I've always admired you. So I got some ideas from him offensively and went back, and I didn't listen. I kept the pack line because I got the job in August. I got the job August 11th. The class started August 14th. So literally I was just playing with what I had.
Yep.
I thought I'd be crazy to change the offense and the defense. So we were truly a dual tempo team, played, 10 to 15 seconds on offense. And back then the 35 second shot clock, we might play 30 seconds of defense. So we averaged 80 points a game, which was high playing the pack line. And we picked six preseason in an 8-team league. We ended up winning the league first time in school history, and got upset in the tournament and didn't get to go to NCAAs. So came back the next year, going to play the exact same way, and actually was able to recruit one or two kids to play that way, and stayed with the pack line. But you don't even know this. Came to see you practice at Chattanooga when you're at Chattanooga and you were trapping the post.
Yep.
Y'all used to call it firing in the post, I think.
Yep.
And my assistant and I came over. Well, my first year, my assistant quit on me 3 games into the year. And so my first year as a college coach, I did not have an assistant. And but we won the league, so I hired Daniel Willis, who's still with me to this day, who had worked with me at Western Carolina. And Daniel and I came over to watch you practice. And we took that home with us, firing and trapping the post. And it upped our scoring. We were still playing pack line, but we trapped the post, and crazily that upped our scoring to 84 points a game just by creating that many turnovers, just by trapping the post and running out of it. So
you've never ever given me credit for it, so that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, well, I'm doing it now.
All right, thanks.
Over
I really
radio.
appreciate it. Could you put it in written media, please? All right, go ahead.
I'm giving you credit,
All right.
but that practice kind of it upped our offense by like 3.5 points. So um, we finished third in the league. We won the tournament and went to the NCAA Division II NCAA tournament with that team, and we lost at the buzzer to the number one team in the country, Bowie State, on their home floor. Lost at the buzzer on a three in overtime, 91-88. And at the end of that game, I did my radio show, and this little guy comes over to me and says, "Hey, Coach, I love the way your team plays." And I said, "Well, man, I wish I'd have got one more stop." And I walked off, and he grabbed my arm. He said, "Coach, I'm Donnie White. I'm the athletic director at BMI, and I'm looking for a basketball coach."
Wow.
And I said, "Hey, Donnie, I'm Duggar. How are you?"
Yeah.
And so I went to VMI, and I tried to play that way at VMI. I tried to play my first year, tried to play pack line and play fast offensively. And along with a few medical reasons, I missed the last 12 games of the year, but we ended up going 7-20. And my first year as a college coach, and I mean, as a Division I coach, and I'm thinking, man, my world's over. And didn't have very good. My Tusculum team would have crushed my VMI team, and I had to learn how to recruit to that.
Yep.
That
Yep.
style, lifestyle more than anything. How do you recruit a kid to come live on a cot and win basketball games? So the next year, getting ready to start the season, and I lost my starting post player, starting point guard to honor violations, which is another part of the military component. They had worked together on a homework project, and they kicked them out of school. And so I told Daniel, I said, desperate people do desperate things. And I'd always been really intrigued by what Paul Westhead did at Loyola when he had Hank Gathers and
Yep.
Bo Kimball, those guys. I'd always been enamored what I'd read about Vance Wahlberg when he
Yep.
was at Fresno City College. And, John Calipari made him famous with the dribble drive, but he had that a long time, before he went to Memphis with Calipari. And he was like 273 and 29 at Fresno College. And I was just really interested in that. And so I researched him. And so I tried to use his spacing with what he did with the dribble drive. I was always intrigued by Grinnell, what they were doing into D3 level, because they were averaging 120 a game. So I took their deal with shifts. So we would actually play guys in shifts because you couldn't play long enough and hard enough to play for any substantial amount of time. So took
And
that.
let me interrupt a little real quick for high school coaches, and I did this a couple times. Playing in shifts, you're talking about playing 5 at a time and 5 at a time and 5 at a time, correct?
Exactly.
In the high school world, let me explain this to you. You don't have fans in the stands. You have FAMs, and that's
Right.
that's
Right.
FAM, not N.
Right.
So you have families in the stands. When people come watch a high school basketball game, they're not there to watch the team. I hate to tell you, they're there to watch their kid. And if you're playing 5 guys and you don't ever put the other 8 guys in, it's about the experience really to me in high school. And the more people you can play and to make sure that they feel important. So if you've got 10 guys or 12 guys doing this shift work and playing really fast, then I think you've got 12 really happy guys, just to be honest, in high school. Just a little side note. Sorry, Duggar. Go ahead.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's the
They
same
feel
way in
invested.
college.
They feel invested
No
instead of just
question.
sitting there the whole time.
No question. And that's kind of what Daniel and I stayed on the phone one night. These kids were going to get drummed out, meaning they were going to be, escorted out of school. And we talked one night. It's a Thursday night. And we talked one night till about 2 in the morning. And the next day, we can't get in our gym. We're Division I school. We can't get in our gym. They've taken our gym for 2 days. So we do something fun with our kids. We take them bowling and we take them to Outback. So I sit there that night and explain to my coaches, this is how we're going to play. And we're 2 weeks into practice now. And so I set down the salt shakers. The salt shakers are the goals, and I use sweet and low packs
Absolutely.
and Splenda packs, and this is what we're going to do. And
Put Splenda needs to be on D. Sweet and low always on O. Remember that.
exactly. And so we do that. And one of my coaches, David Jandrew, who's now an AD over at UNC Asheville, he looks at me and said, "Coach, You really think this is going to work? And I said, I don't have a clue, but I don't think we have a choice. And so we take the kids bowling on Friday night. We can't get in the gym Saturday. On Sunday, we literally bring probably our top three guys, along with Daniel Willis, my assistant, who was a D2 All-American. He actually plays with my guys. We bring them an hour early in and say, this is what we're going to do. This is the spots we're going to shoot from. And the whole goal is shoot it before you turn it over, and we're going to press all over the place. They were the white team. My red team had no idea this was going to happen. So we play, and we have referees. You know how it is. 2 weeks in, you bring in
Yep.
the officials, and you have an inter-squad scrimmage. The officials have no idea what we're doing. I sit at center court. I have one coach one team, another coach the other, and but I'm more with the white team. And the white team beats the other team like 121 to 106 or something like that.
Hmm.
And so at the end, I set them all down at the middle of the court. And I said, guys, this is the way we're going to play this year. And they had been down in the dumps about losing two of their teammates. And I said, and they looked at me like I had four heads. And I said, no, this is the way we're going to play. And we're going to win a bunch of games playing this way. And we're going to lead the country in scoring. We're going to lead the country in three-pointers made. We're going to lead the country in assists. And we're going to lead the country in steals. And that's just the way it's going to be. And Reggie, you got a chance to lead the country in scoring. And they looked at me like, like I was a crazy man. So I walk in my office, and Reggie comes in my office. He said, Coach, you really think I got a chance to lead the country in scoring? I said, yeah, if you'll be my biggest cheerleader. And sure enough, at the end of the year, we won 14 games. We went from 7 to 14. We doubled our wins. We got beat in the Big South Finals against Winthrop. Actually, Greg Marshall, his last game he ever coached at Winthrop before, he went to Wichita. And they actually beat us by 3 in the championship game. And then he went on and beat Notre Dame in the tournament. But
Did you all get beat in Asheville? Was that Nashville?
No, that was a couple years later. You were at that
Yeah.
tournament. This was we always played at the seed of the higher team. So we lost on Winthrop's home court. But at the end of the year, we had averaged 101 points a game, made 13.9 threes per game, most in the history of college basketball, until Villanova just broke that record last year, and it took them, I think, 9 more games to do it in, because they made it all the way to the championship game. But they broke it in the Final Four, broke that record of 442, I think it was. But then we set the all-time record in steals per game, and we led the country in scoring. And then Reggie led the country in scoring at 28.6 points a game. And so then it kind of had a life of its own. And we just tried to improve it. The next game we won. We went 14-15, lost several games literally on last possessions. We graduated Reggie. He led the country again in scoring. We lost him. They moved the three-point line back a foot, and everybody said, well, you're done. You won't be able to do what you do with a longer three-point line. And that just kind of helped us because of the spacing.
Mm-hmm, no doubt.
And then that goes to the night you talked about. The next game we played after that 14-15 season was at Rupp Arena, and we beat Kentucky 111-103. And actually, one thing, in that game, we were up 23 at one point in that game. And they came all the way back and took the lead. Now, they were good. It was Billy Gillespie's last year, but they had good players.
I think
Patrick
you probably
Patterson.
helped it become his last year.
Yeah, and no, not one Kentucky fan has sent me a thank you note for John Calipari.
I understand it. Cal needs to give you some cash. You didn't forget about the thank you note.
No question.
One
but we
thing
beat that
is,
Kentucky team.
You play and you play really without a post guy. I mean, you don't
True.
really have bigs, correct?
True. Like my post player now is a 6'6" kid.
All right. So like most high schools, or a small college or whatever. I mean, having a post guy now is like luxury. Nobody has post guys. Everybody complains they don't have post guys, and now you are encouraging not having post guys.
Right. Yeah. Well, only deal on our deal is, he can be a 6'4" post player, and we'll play as small as that, even in the Southern Conference sometimes. But he has to be able to shoot. That's what. And what we, of those 12 kids that we had that year, one was a walk-on that we started this whole thing with. They couldn't shoot. Only 3 or 4 of them could shoot. We had to convince them that they were good shooters, and we shot so many of them. We didn't shoot a high percentage, but we shot so many of them that they believed they were good shooters. And confidence, that's half the battle.
All right, give us 3 to 4 ideas offensively, 3 to 4 ideas defensively. I don't want you to give out everything because you're right in the middle of the season. But just give us some 3 or 4 thoughts offensively and defensively on how you get this done.
Okay. First thing I tell people, like we've had people come and try to study us and want to do this. A lot of high school coaches, several college coaches. But the first thing I tell everybody is, first and foremost, you got to be committed to it. And so commitment, I think, is the first thing. And, there's no college coach that goes in a kid's house and say, hey, we're going to play slow. Everybody says they're going to play fast. And then you look at teams scoring in the 60s and the low 70s. That's not fast to me. But you got to be committed to it. What we really work on is our spacing, making everyone have to be guarded on the floor, which allows for driving lanes for us. And then it all starts if you have a decent point guard who can beat his man off the dribble.
Yeah.
That starts the chain reaction of driving, kicking, and then that guy getting the guy in a closeout, driving, kicking. And we literally, I told a reporter this one time, and he kind of laughed, but it's truly our mantra. We try to shoot it before we turn it over, because if you shoot it and you miss it, you can always go rebound it. If you turn it over, it's usually run back down your face. So
that was Sonny Smith. That was Sonny Smith's big thing at Auburn a long time ago. Was shoot it before you turn it over, and don't get too tricky, don't get too pretty. Now you stole some of this from Grinnell, correct?
I stole the shifts and stuff from Coach Arsenal at Grinnell.
All right, I did a game for them for ESPN, and I just remember their offense. I was all pumped up, and they were going to shoot 1,000 threes. It all started at a point guard that drove it to start the offense every time, and if you helped, he kicked, and if you didn't, he went and shot a layup or got fouled every single time. I was like, there's the key. So the key guy is your point guard.
No question. And you hope somebody can get his shoulders by people, and hopefully he can finish at the rim. We got a good engine this year. A kid named Lou Stallworth. We're able to take grad transfers at Citadel. So Lou's actually our leading scorer and leading assist guy. But I haven't always had that, but it certainly makes it nice when you do. If you can't have that, have some really good shooters who they have to hug more. That's the other key.
How much time are you working on just flat shooting threes in practice?
We make our kids, we give them goals that they have to shoot during the week. So they'll get in there and have to shoot a lot on the gun. And we don't get close at our place using our 20 hours. So our guys will have, 2 hours a week with the coach individually also that, they'll come in during a free class period. And
what's your goal? I'm just curious to help the coaches. What's your goals?
We want them to get up at least 500 makes a week.
Okay.
That's out of practice.
Okay, I got you.
That's out of practice.
Like in the summer, in the summer, I remember talking to Bob Ritchie. They were trying in the summer with nothing going on. They were trying to make, like 2,000 shots. I don't know if they were particularly threes, but they were trying to make 2,000 shots a week in the summer. But that was with nothing.
Yeah, that's we'll do that same thing in the summer if they're only taking one class or an online class or whatever. But we shoot. Big Van Wahlberg thing is we shoot layups or we shoot threes. We don't shoot anything. And the analytics kind of prove out now, that the mid-range jumper is the most the least value of any shots you can take.
Yeah.
A lot of them are uncontested. Like we actually practice shot fake sidestep threes.
Yeah.
And we were not going to take a shot fake one dribble 17-footer. We don't practice it. We just don't shoot it. Now a lot of teams. Now we just got beat yesterday by a team that shoots a ton of those. And if you practice it, that's good. But we just don't. That's just not what we do.
Well, I think it kind of goes back to, and I don't think everybody can run this system, but I think I think whatever you run has to fit you as a coach and your personality, and so or you can't commit to it.
True.
Not everybody could do that. Not everybody could play like East Tennessee State or Wofford or whatever. It's got to fit. The same thing with recruiting who you got to recruit and who you play. But it's got to fit. You're insane. You're like a mad scientist. I got to meet Arsenault up at Grinnell, and he was madman. And you got to do that to try it and to do it, and it's got to fit who you are. And if it fits who you are, you believe in it, and it's
Right.
successful. It's not brain surgery, and you really
No.
believe in this.
I'm sold out on it. And people always ask you, if you had a different job, would you do the same thing? I say, yeah, just do it better players.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm kind of a long shot anyway. I got into coaching late, and I'm not really scared to try things because I've been at two really, really difficult jobs. And fortunately, I've had the administration that has allowed me. They haven't put any parameters on us, but we won more games in 10 years at VMI than had ever been won there before, and played in 3 championships there, and that hadn't been done, in that type of within 10 years that hadn't been done. Went to the CIT Final Four. So it can work. I mean, it's not just an oddity or a freak show. Which when you talk to people, they say, really, y'all shoot that many threes? And I'll say, yeah, but you can go in a kid's home and say, hey, we're going to play fast. What do you mean you play fast? Well, we averaged 94 points a game last year. We made more threes than any team in the country. And we shoot more than any team in the country. And they'll say, oh, okay. That kind of gets their attention. And, oh, by the way, we're a military school, and you have to wear a uniform. And so basically what we get, and I'll tell you this. This is a statistic. At VMI, in 10 years, I had 31 players that graduated or that played for me for 4 years. 29 of them graduated. The only 2 who didn't went on and signed pro contracts that were a few hours short of degree.
Yeah.
But of those 31 kids, I beat 1 school. I had 1 kid that had offered a kid to Gardner Webb. That was the only school, D1 school, I ever beat on a kid.
Well,
So
we're in Chattanooga here, but down in Birmingham, you got Mountain Brook High School. Now they got a really good player, but they just did it with a bunch of kids that were from Mountain Brook and pressed and trapped and shot threes and played wild, played different. That's the thing I like, and they won a bunch of state championships. That's what I like about your deal is that you're different than everybody else. You play different. People have to prepare for you. It's not the same old, same old. And then for a high school coach to trying to get maybe some football guys out, hey, listen, man, we're not going to play just solid, straight man-to-man and grind it out. We're going to play really fast. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to shoot a lot of threes. It's fun for kids, and it's attractive for kids, and it may help a high school coach get those kids out playing that maybe normally wouldn't play. Because
no
it's fun.
question.
It's fun to watch, and it's also fun to play.
Well, for kids, especially football players, you can get a long, lean athlete. Doesn't have to be a long, lean athlete. If a kid that just plays so hard, those are what we look for. Guys that can play harder for longer. And if they had length and athleticism, that certainly helped. We had a set of twins. They're all-time high-scoring twins in college basketball history. And each of them led the country in steals on different years. And when they were seniors, one was first in the country in steals and one was second. And they were 6'4" twins, Chavis and Travis Holmes. And if you get kids like that, I mean, they don't have to be prototypical looking basketball players. They just got to be kids that are completely bought in, believe in what you do, and winning helps, And like you say, from a high school standpoint, we were playing shifts. Now, Reggie, when he was leading the country in scoring, he was double shifting some.
Yeah.
But still, he would only play. He could lead the country in scoring because there were so many possessions in our game. He could lead the country in scoring playing, 30 minutes a game, just because there's so many possessions. It threw poor Ken Pomeroy when we first started doing it, threw him for a loop. All the Kempon numbers, because nobody was doing this. And but you have to be like-minded, like crazy, a little bit crazy, like Van and Coach Arsenault. There's not many guys that are willing to take chances and risk like this. And we're truly risking reward defensively. We got a little more settled defensively now, but we'll press you and come back in a box and one, or we'll press you and come back in zone, or we'll man press and come back in zone. And we'll do just different things. Our whole goal, John, and this is an idea for any high school coach out there. Our whole goal is whatever you practice to play against for say you got 22 games a year as high school, 30 games as a college coach. Whatever you prepare for, 28 of those games, you're not going to be able to do that for 2 games a year when you play me
Yeah,
or play
ain't
us.
no doubt.
We're going to be different. And same thing for high school. They can play 18 games, but 2 games you're going to have to play a little bit differently. And if a team's got better athletes and way better players than you, and they decide to play your way, which will drive their coach crazy, I promise. But
Yeah.
if they let them go, then you might get beat by 30. But if we're shooting it good, like we did this year against High Point, and made 23 threes, I think we went 23 for 40. Tubby Smith, the head coach of High Point, said, I've just never been anything like that. We tried to simulate it in practice, and we couldn't. And I'd never seen him. We beat them by 25. So it's just
I got a question for you here.
okay.
What do you think after playing wild offensively and playing pack line, which is just very solid, sound, hard nosed, tough, man to man. All right, and now you've played wild offensively, and now you're starting to press and play wild defense. Do you think your offense has to fit your defense, or do you think it has to go together, or can you have a kind of a black and white type deal, offensively and defensively?
I think actually you can do both. I've kind of gone over to the dark side now. I think you have to. I prefer doing both because I think at my level it gives me my best chance to win.
So you want to play
Uh,
wild and wild?
I want to play wild and wild. Yeah, but we had a lot of success at Tusculum playing pack line, and then like I say, went to the NCAA tournament and won a regular season championship. The year we won the championship, we were the only team in the country in the top 15 in scoring. In field goal percentage offense and field goal percentage defense.
Yeah, that's pretty nasty there.
Yeah, they usually don't go together. We
No.
were we were 49-9 offense and 39-7, I think, defense, and that just doesn't go together. But now we can win games and give up 52% because we're going to turn you over 19 times, and
What's your
you might
goal?
shoot.
What's your goal? So you're pressing a lot. All right. Are
Yeah,
you're
but
pressing
every
off makes and
possession
you're changing defenses and you're making it wild and crazy. Because
normally.
yeah. So what's your goal deflection wise, or what's your goal steal wise, or what are your goals going into a game? And also, what are your goals offensively? I mean, you want to shoot how quick and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, this year the SoCon's been so tough. I
Yep.
mean, it's been so tough. So we've had to make some changes, and we'll do a lot of junk defense. Like last year, East Tennessee State was the class of the league, and we lost by them to 2 at our place, and we beat them by 1 at their place. And they won 16 games in a row in our league. I
Yeah.
mean, they were crazy good, but we were able to play with them because we played them triangle and 2 uh, at our place, and made the other guys try to beat us, and then went boxing 1, triangle and 2. We played them at their place, and people just don't normally prepare for that. And
No, it's a pain. It
uh,
gets people out of rhythm, out of their comfort zone, and it's just not normal, and
yeah,
that pisses off coaches.
so now we don't have as much. We have more goals going into games than we do blanket. When I first started it at VMI, our first year, we were trying to shoot 53s. We were trying to force 25 turnovers. We were trying to, and of those 25 turnovers, you want as many of them live turnovers as you can.
Yeah.
So that year, I think we averaged 14 steals a game, averaged. So one time we played Radford, we turned them over 37 times in a
Wow.
D1 game. So um, that those live turnovers just feed your offense. That's what you want. That's like fuel to the fire. Um, but now we have to game plan a little bit more. So we'll always be in some type of pressure, whether it's a soft pressure coming back.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll trap out of it. So we're not quite as cut and dry. Now we're just trying to win games in a very, very difficult league. Um, I will say when I left the Big South, I was in that for 9 years, and my last year at VMI, we're in the SoCon. And now, I mean, just yesterday, the SoCon Pomeroy rankings was the 10th best conference in the league.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
It's
so you got to get a little more creative now. And we started this year 9-2, the best start in school history, and we took a Christmas break and came back, and our 3-point shooting left us. And we've really struggled in league since then. And nice we shoot it good, though we're still dangerous. And
Well,
and I still think,
nobody wants to play you. I mean,
well,
half the Southern Conference are my buddies. Nobody wants to play you. You're uncomfortable. You make people uncomfortable. You get a lead on you. No lead is ever safe. You get a lead on people. They feel like they can come back because who knows
true,
if you make it. So it's so unpredictable. You're a pain in the tail to prepare for and a pain in the tail to play. Now, wouldn't you want to be high school coaches out there listening or college coaches? Wouldn't you want to be that guy? I never wanted to be somebody easy to prepare for. And I started pressing all the time, Duggar, when I was coaching at Macaulay, and we
hmm
pressed and trapped and pressed and trapped. I didn't want to coach against the other coach. I wanted to make the players play and do something different than they did every single day in practice. I wanted them
true.
playing different, and all we were looking for, just to be honest, is 4 6-0 runs. If we could get 4 6-0 runs and we'd play even the rest of the time, we just beat you by 24.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
mean, all you're looking for is just a bang, 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 a couple of 6-0 runs throughout the game, and then play the rest of the game even, and you end up winning by 25, 30 points. And
Right.
so you're just trying to find those runs, and it sounds like you're creating that offensively and defensively. But I want, and I'm not going to put your number out because, first of all, no one likes you that much, Duggar. But everybody knows how to they can reach you through the Citadel,
Hey, yeah,
or come.
go to my website. Go to Citadel website. Click on Duggar Bar. I promise I'll be the only Duggar in the staff directory. And Duggar. And yeah, just shoot me an email. It's crazy. We don't have anything. I've never been smart enough to write all the stuff down that we do, but I'm always open to talking to high school coaches. If they email me, I'm always. I just tell them first and foremost, you got to be crazy to do what we do. One time I was in the elevator at Final Four. You'll appreciate this, and he's one of the best coaches in the country, I think, and Matt Painter at Purdue.
Yep.
And I'm riding down the elevator with Matt, and I've known Matt since assistant at Campbell when I was down there working camps. And we're riding down the elevator. He said, Duggar, man, could you help me? You score so many points. Can you help me offensively? I said, Matt, I said, I can't help you, man. I said, you forgot more basketball than I know. I said, I'm just committed to it. I said, you got to be committed to it. Like I can give you a couple sets, but about the time they threw 2 balls over your head and they dunk on you, you're going to say, that press isn't in for me. And he said, you're probably right.
Well,
And so,
like I said, it's got to fit who you are. It's got to fit who you are. But also, I think that coaches need to get from what you did. As soon as you took over at Tusculum, the first thing you did is reach out to Bo Brickles and go talk to Bo Brickles and watching our. All we do is steal from each other and go back and talk and learn and spend the time in the summer learning. I said I don't have a whole lot of original tweets, Duggar, but we always demand our players to work on their games. Man, look at y'all are just playing video games. You're playing Fortnite or whatever. You're not working on your game. You got to work
right,
on your game. You got to work on your game. I challenge coaches. Are you working on your game? Or are you just doing the same old thing that you've done all the time? Or are you taking the summer and working on your game? Or are you meeting with different coaches around the country? Because let me just tell you something. Like I coached in college, but I was an old JV basketball coach. So I love talking basketball because that's what I did. You're a
right,
former high school coach. You'll talk to anybody,
right.
and most coaches will, because they appreciate someone else's interest in the game. But very few. I'm telling you, man, very few high school coaches, they just stay the same. Or college coaches, this work class, you get complacent and you get lazy, and so do players. So as coaches, as you're challenging your players to work on their game, I got an idea. Work on your game. And it sounds like, Duggar, you worked on your game.
Hey, it's great you're saying that. Like my wife always gets on me. She said, "Honey, what are you doing on the computer?" And I said, "Well, the computer's like the internet, YouTube. That's like an encyclopedia now.
Yeah.
I mean, of just You can. And I was watching some international game. I was watching Spain play somebody, and I said, I'm watching ball screen. She said, why are their uniforms in different names? And I said, well, it's the Spanish, it's this, it's Euro League. And I said, that's Spanish. And she said, oh. And I said, they're so far ahead of us in some of their offensive spacing and stuff. And so we'll steal from anybody. Good friend, close friend of yours, Lenny Acuff. A couple of years ago, I brought Lenny down to Charleston, and who's easily the most underrated coach in
Oh,
the country.
yeah, he's awesome. He's made my
And
son a good player. That's how good he is.
well, he made your son a good player because your son has your wife's basketball
Absolutely,
genes.
without a doubt.
But I brought Jimmy Allen down from Army, who also plays fast, and we just sat and did a think tank for 2 days and just talked basketball. And I encourage anybody, high school coaches. We have high school coaches in our gym all the time. Our practices are always open. I always tell them, I always lead with this, just be prepared to be underwhelmed, because it's not magic. It's not magic. They'll say, man, that's so simple. Well, the simpler we make it, the easier the kids can probably pick up on it.
Yeah, it's a mindset. I've
No
said
question.
all these years, if you're going to be worth a flip in basketball, you better have an identity, and your team better have an identity. And when I come watch you play after 5 minutes, I better know your identity, and because kids are going to buy into that identity. If you're out there just playing a game, I don't know what you're doing. Well, your kids don't know what they're doing either. Your kids
Right.
know what to do. Your kids know your identity, and you're going to make shots, and you're going to have a great rest of the year, and you're one of the best dudes there are in college basketball. So I love you, my friend. You're awesome. You're gifted, and we had a good time out there being groupies on the PGA Tour, didn't we? My guy was Ken Duke. Yours was Vaughn Taylor.
Yeah.
And we'd see y'all out on the tour, man.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and thanks for all the kind words. I promise this. I'm just been a blessed guy. I've had 2 really hard jobs, but to have 2 Division I jobs, especially as late as I started, I feel like the most blessed dude in the world. But our practices are always open. They can call me on my or email me. Email me is the
Absolutely.
best way. I don't answer my office phone much. But if they email me, I'll be glad to share anything I have with them. And we'll go learn from Bucky McMillan down, like you said, down in Alabama.
Bucky's
at the
really
high
good.
school.
Bucky's really good. And everybody's like, well, he's got great players. No, well, he's got a great player this year. All right.
This year.
But previous years, he's won with a bunch of Schulmans and Baucoms out there playing. And
Exactly.
And everybody's got bad players like me and you, so life's good, right?
Hey, Greg Wilson's at Chapman High School, up a big football school, up in upstate South
Yep.
Carolina. He plays exactly like we do. He comes to practice, and he's been doing it for several years. They beat Southside the other day. First time in school history, beat
Wow.
Southside on the road, which was a huge win, for his program.
Yep.
But call Greg up at Chapman. Once you're kind of you said it best. If you have this mindset, you like talking about it. Now I'm not trying to convert people. I'm just saying what's best for us. And if you're a young coach out there and you don't know what you want your identity to be, but I couldn't agree with you more. There's only certain teams I watch play on TV,
Yep.
and those are the guys with the identity.
Yep.
So,
Well, listen,
but
man,
we're here to help.
You're awesome. You're awesome. Thanks so much for your time, and we're rooting for you. We're all Citadel fans.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Take
Love
care,
to
buddy.
Amy.
All right, yes,
See
sir.
you.
Take care. Thanks.